The human body is really, when you get down to it, a bowl of soup divided into different sections of varying viscosity. There are some sections like the stomach and genitalia that are filled with bitter liquid, and other sections that are filled with smoother, more appetizing liquids. Some of my favorite parts are the rib cage and the femurs. The rib cages are just like the ones I used to eat as a human. I loved the ones slathered in barbecue back then. Human meat is much more tender, but the parts, especially around the chest, are more jerky-like. The cartilage having a more rough and chewy texture, and the femur is surrounded by all the juicy tenderness in the thigh. Even taking the connecting meat out of the equation, one can crack open a rib cage or femur and feast upon the cakey bone marrow. It absorbs the blood after death, giving it a rich metallic kick after a little bit of chewing. Some call us ghouls, phantoms. Others, zombies, wendigos, revenants, vampires, bardogs. We all hail from different faiths. For all we know, there are even more of us that we have not yet discovered. But we hunt in packs, as wolves do. We don't exactly name our species, but we've generally spread a name amongst our brethren. If we fail to consume those akin to whom we once were, we turn to stone. We call this a turning. I have experienced a turning in person before. His skin turned a stone gray, and his body came to a halt. His body was icy, though his heart continued beating ever so slowly. A thing that once was my friend. This turning is why we nickname ourselves Coldbodies. Over time, our existence has become less of a tall tale. Thus, for the unwise, we have become more of a beast for the hunt. As man grows and evolves, so too does his ego. But alas, 'tis human nature to be barbaric. Those things ate my brother in front of me, or at least they did when they were human. They were the first to do it. We were all dying on Everest. There were 4 of us in total. Then we were down to 3. I assume one of them realized what he had done, had this sudden moment where his whole face went blank, looking at the snow-stained inky red on his face too. He threw up what looked like a kidney. A part of my fucking brother. That's what he threw up in the snow. It was runny, smelled like a room full of open scotch and pennies. Not too long after their feast of his innards, the one pulled out a flare gun and sent his brains into the goddamn atmosphere. I remembered his eyeballs more than anything, falling alongside his teeth as stringy maroon across the snow. The other one picked up an eye and squeezed the juice out of it and onto his tongue like a fruit. His scalp pieces looked like red coconuts as the other guy ate the chunks out of the hairy bowl. If I had anything to throw up, I would have then and there. The crunches, the slurps, the chewing, the stringent viscera slowly becoming one cohesive, slushy puddle, an absolute zero. I'll never forget the manifesto he played. How could he just eat his friends like that? How could either of them? Those demons are fucking barbaric. I'm surprised by how sophisticated our society is up here. In most fictitious versions of our people, we are said to be ravenous, bloodthirsty monsters. But that could be no further from the truth. The aspect that the stories get right is the way the flesh enhances our bodies. Maybe not to the same extent as they prophesized, but we have more acute senses of hearing, faster metabolism, stronger muscles, faster growing hair and nails, and a better sense of smell. Did you know that smell is closely related to the human sense of taste? This is how we taste the difference between human and non-human meat. Humans carry around an odd aroma wherever they go. We all live in similar frozen caves, however small the group. There would be no way for a human to live among our people unless he became like us. We do everything together for the betterment of our cold-bodied race. A human's juicy muscles would freeze before he would be able to keep up with us. Before we initiate one into our group, we need to observe them from afar. Often we starve and turn before we get welcomed into society. That is nearly what happened to me when I became better than human. At first, I was against the idea, but I've come to love the intricate taste of the human figure. I just wish my first taste was not that of someone so close to me. Alas, 'tis human nature to be barbaric. He turned into something. He was looking at me like a starving animal, and then continuously asked me why I didn't eat with him. What a sick, twisted thing to ask somebody. He acted like it was rational, like I was the outsider, and he was just going about his own business. How could he so nonchalantly chew my brother's intestines just feet away from me? He had changed. I could have been imagining the physical changes, but I could tell the mental ones for sure. He seemed to become more distant, more lost in thought, like he was recessing into a wild animal's type brain. He ate so much of my brother that he started burping up clumps of his hair. His icy, frost-tipped hair. I lost track of the amount of days it's been. My legs have become unbearably frostbitten, and in my state, he ate 3 times a day, piggishly every time. My brother began to look like a skeleton left to rot, no longer the frozen body he once was. His skin, his flesh, it was almost all gone. I could hardly even recognize him. I could tell he had started eyeing me. The scraps he left himself weren't enough to keep. So he thought of moving on to the next piece of meat, newer, fresher, and tastier. I had to get away from him in some way. I looked down Everest, a fall of thousands of feet, and weighed my options. I was already weak from the days of hunger, but I knew I could hold on just a little longer. I got closer to the fucking beast. Nothing but redness could be seen for dozens of feet, staining the snow grotesquely. The smell hadn't seemed to worsen, but maybe my nose had just become acquainted with the smell at that point. I crawled through the red snow, dragging my body slowly enough that he couldn't hear me. A side effect of this was that my body was covered in blood. I hoped it wasn't my brother's. Eventually, I made it to the one who blew his brains out. The gun was still there, now glossy with webbed maroon sludge, covering it like moss. With only a few flares left, I used it on the monster I used to know as a human. I shot his jaw off and he ran. I just hoped he wouldn't come back for me. This demon is fucking barbaric. It's been 3 days since I found him. Turned into a statue. I'm shivering. Soon I'll be just like him. A little paler, maybe. My coat isn't going to hold up much longer. I've seen other things that look like what he did. Taller and moving faster than he could in the distance. Every day, eating just a little piece of one of those bodies sounds better and better. But I can't risk it, can I? Becoming like those demons. How could I risk that possibility? I can't be like those things. Those demons are fucking barbaric. I took a bite, and then another, and then another, and then there was no body left of the one whose head exploded. I left my brother's body as it was. No matter how mangled and devoured he had become by now, and how hungry and desperate I already was. I wonder what urges me to do this. The demons inside me. The demons inside my head. The demons inside my head are fucking barbaric. Days more passed. I ate and ate and refused my brother's flesh. It seemed they liked that. They found me, and they spoke to me, and they took me in, and they explained everything to me. What my friend did was called turning, and we are called Coldbodies. I think I understand them. It's hard to explain, but the creatures of legend were fabrications made by those scared of us. Those who feared the power we gained by giving into our primal urges called us barbarians. Alas, 'tis human nature to be barbaric, and cold-bodied nature to be misunderstood.